Welcome to the show. Glad you're here today. 855-839-1210 on X at Rich Zeoli. Appreciate you being here. Guess we had a little hot mic issue. Thank God I didn't say anything bad. Sometimes I do, but I didn't today because I'm in a really good mood. My day started on America's Newsroom, and I was up in New York with Jimmy Fallon. We were on there with Dana Perino and Martha McCallum, talking about the whole City Sweeney thing and Jaguar. I think the president was watching. Well, I know he was because he put out a Truth Social post shortly after the hit and was basically saying what we were saying. And he brought up Bud Light, and I brought up a guy in a dress and how it's obvious that people would buy a woman in jeans and what she's selling and not a dude in a dress. So anyway, there you go. So the president was watching that. He Truth Socialed it because he was asked yesterday. He said, it's come to our attention that Sydney Sweeney's a Republican. That's because the left went and looked up her voter registration. But you know what I find most fascinating about that is that Sydney Sweeney lives in Florida. And she loves guns. She's an excellent marksman. Holy cow, there's just one video of her shooting. And I was even going back and forth with Jack Carr's guy about this, about getting her in one of Jack Carr's, the Terminalist show. They're working on season 2's coming out soon. But I said they should get Sydney Sweeney for season 3. But she's a big deal. She was in White Lotus. She's been in a couple movies. She has a new movie coming out. She's playing a woman boxer, female boxer, who's known as like the female Rocky. It's a total underdog story. And but she lives in Florida. You know why she lives in Florida? Because she's smart and she has a lot of money and she doesn't want to give it all to Gavin Newsom. But she's not the only one. There's lots of Hollywood actors and actresses who don't live in, Hollywood. Right, because they don't make movies there anymore. They don't make movies there anymore. Over the weekend, I took the kids to see Superman. So that was, I think, the third time I've seen it. But Patrick and Reagan and Bridget had not seen it yet. So we went to see Superman, and we stayed till the closing credits because there's a couple post scenes. And I noticed at the end, because I didn't stay till the very, very end for the final post-credit scene, but at the end, they show you all the shooting locations. And the film was shot in Georgia, also in the UK and New Zealand, but primarily was shot in Georgia. That's where they mostly make movies nowadays, in Georgia. Georgia is a red state. Georgia is a red state. So think about it now. Gavin Newsom and the Democrats, like if you had said at one point, what is Hollywood known for? Now, there's lots of answers. Pickpockets, homeless people, homeless poop on the streets, drug dealers, serial killers, rapists, but what industry would you say California is known for? And people would say, oh, the movies, Hollywood, Tinseltown. When we did years ago, we did the Universal Studios Hollywood tour. Not years ago, months ago, back in the spring. We went out there. I was doing the PragerU, got my PragerU thermos, whatever this is, whatever brand this is, book club, and took the family out there. We went to Universal Studios. And we did the studio tour. Now, I loved it. It was fun. Because I knew the movies that they'd actually shot there, like Psycho, the original Psycho, War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise. There weren't many, but my kids didn't know any of the movies. None of them. None of them. And they don't, the only thing they were shooting while we were there was a live show for America's Got Talent, The Voice, whatever it is. Whatever it is. Because they need a studio audience for that. So it's easier to get studio audiences in Hollywood and New York because, you run the tickets there. And there's offices there. So, like, they had a big thing for Wicked, a big sign. And my daughter goes, oh, is that where they shot Wicked? No, they shot Wicked in the UK and they shot Wicked in Georgia. But the producer has an office there. So there are Wicked balloons, like the same balloons you could buy in ShopRite. No, really, the other day for Mama Zeoli's birthday. Today's Mama Zeoli's birthday. Wish Mama Zeoli a happy birthday. Thanks for giving me life. Or as my haters say, thanks. Yeah, thanks a lot, Mama Zeoli. But anyway, I went to ShopRite and I got balloons. And of course, when you give balloons for your parents, it's really for your children. And Reagan loves balloons and Claire loves Wicked. So I got balloons, and one of the balloons was a happy birthday Wicked balloon. That exact balloon was outside the producer's office in Hollywood at Universal Studios. But the movie wasn't shot there. They don't shoot movies there anymore. Too expensive. And I was curious while I was there, going on the studio tour and looking at this museum of what was once Hollywood, because they show you like, oh, we shot a scene for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood here. And, oh, if you remember, like that's the Friends fountain or like things like that. And my kids have no idea like what they're talking about. And they'll rent studios space to various things like that, but they haven't shot an actual full-length feature film in Hollywood in a very, very long time. So then I did a little research, and I was reading in the Los Angeles Times this article that came out a few years ago, and they were saying that Hollywood, in a matter of time, is just going to be a museum to Hollywood. Like, that's it. It'll be a museum to Hollywood and what they used to do there. And they're losing a gigantic piece of that every day as more and more people move out. And the article went on to say, we don't really want to talk about it, but a big reason is the millionaire's tax. Because, you know, all the Hollywood lefties advocated for a millionaire's tax because, of course, they're all, you know, woke Dems. And so they were like, oh, yeah, raise taxes on the rich, of course. And what do? They left. They moved out. And the studios, because they're cheap and they're always trying to save money, they're like, oh, yeah, of course we support raising taxes on rich people. And then what do? They fled to states where it's cheaper to make movies so that they can make more money for themselves, which I'm fine with. That's called capitalism. Good. But Georgia took advantage of that, seized that, created all these film credits and made it easy. And it's a right to work state. And they also found a way to make the permitting and the regulations. And that was the other thing I read in the article is that in Hollywood, it's the permitting, the hassle, the busting of the chops, and during COVID, with Gavin Newsom, the political shapeshifter, yeah, he shut the place down. Tom Cruise, to his credit, said enough is enough. I got to finish Top Gun Maverick. This is ridiculous. So he went to the UK, convinced the Brits to open up. The Brits opened up, and he was able to finish shooting Top Gun Maverick there. But that was it. It's done. Like Hollywood's done. So Sydney Sweeney, if she does have to shoot something in Hollywood, it'll be very rare that she does. But she'll probably have to do a red carpet out there. They still use that Chinese theater for that. I don't know if you can say that or not. It's racist, but they still use the Chinese theater for premieres and things like that. And they do all their premieres but so she might have to fly out there. So she'll jet set out there. She's not living there. But that was the dream at one point, right? If you're a young 27-year-old rich actress, you wanted to be in Hollywood. You wanted to live in Los Angeles. You wanted to be in the epicenter of the movie industry. Not Sydney Sweeney. She's smart. She loves guns. She's not staying in California. Why? So that she can pay 15% income tax and not have guns? When she could live in Florida, pay no income tax and have all the guns that she wants. And go shooting and have freedom. So this actress who has caused backlash among like 5 people, and then the other like 350 million sane people who are not offended by her ad, just think it's a really beautiful woman in jeans. The 5 people who are offended by her and the campaign, those crazy people, then they're called crazy people. They are. They don't amount to anything. They said, well, let's out her as a Republican. And they did. And people were like, oh, my God. And then they asked Trump, and President Trump was like, she is? Well, there's actually a lot of people who are Republicans. And there are. There are a lot of people who are Republicans who actually work in the entertainment industry. It's one of the reasons why I go to the movies. I don't boycott Hollywood. I know some people do. And every time I talk about movies, I always usually get an email from somebody. But I don't care because, you know, as you're watching the credits for Superman, I enjoy the movies. I like going to the movies. I just enjoy the process of it. You know what I mean? The whole thing. And it's also a good way to kill a couple hours on a hot day with kids or a rainy day with kids. But the credits take minutes to roll, and you get the key grip and the lighting guys and the sound guys, and those are all our people. All those guys are our people. The catering guys, the truck guys, the rigging guys. I don't know what any of those people do. All those people, the set builders, those are all MAGA. They're all people voting Republican. And there's a whole lot of actors that are too. It's just like the people that are offended by Sydney Sweeney, they're loud. right? So the ones that are the actors who are the lefties are loud and obnoxious, and they make you think that the whole industry is like that. But when I heard that whole thing about how they outed Sydney Sweeney, outed her, I mean, she's a registered Republican, and I thought, well, the funniest part about that is that here's a successful Hollywood actress who lives in Florida. It's like everybody lives in Florida now. You know, Governor DeSantis jokes about how he's trying to now figure out a way to stop everybody from coming from New York to Florida when that socialist kook Mandami winds up winning, and he's going to win because New York's nuts. So they'll vote for the guy and then they'll leave. So you've got California leaving. All this talk about redistricting in Texas, and you're hearing a lot about this, and it's kind of in the weeds, but basically it goes like this, right? These states now are trying to figure out how they can keep their congressional districts, because they're losing. Blue states in particular are going to lose their seats. They're going to lose their seats when they do the census in 2030. California, New Jersey, New York, maybe Jersey can tie. If Jack Ciattarelli wins, and I think he's got a great shot of winning, maybe New Jersey can turn the tide on that. But people are fleeing blue states. Sydney Sweeney, I'm sure when she was young, probably at some point when she decided she wanted to be an actress, probably thought, I'll live in Hollywood. And then made money and was like, I'll never live in Hollywood. Like, why? And she doesn't have to because they're not filming there. So it's not like she's got to be on set at 9 a.m. to do a shoot. If anything, she's got to be in Georgia. And then great, good for her, because it's cheaper to be in Georgia than it is to be in Los Angeles. So people are fleeing blue states, and these blue states now are trying to figure out how they can redistrict to try to keep the seats, congressional districts. And Gavin Newsom actually started this. And as everybody's talking about Texas, what they're not mentioning is that Newsom started this by bypassing a proposition that was passed by the people of California that would take redistricting out of the hands of the politicians. But he knows they're going to lose seats. And so he's trying to move the map around, not only to put himself in a better shape for 2026, because so many people have left, but also to try to preserve seats when they redo the census and then redo the map in 2032. But these blue states are in for a reckoning. And I had a laugh the other day when the van down by the river, if you heard during the hot mic, it's what I was saying. Friday night, Fox News sent a van down to my house. I did a hit on Ingram Angle. And we were talking about Jasmine Crockett going on about how all these Anglos in Texas, are figuring out the redistricting. And why should these Anglos have so much say? And I just said, it's interesting to me. I don't really know what she's talking about, because the only demographic the Democrats have left are white, college-educated liberals. That's it. Like Latino voters, Hispanic voters, they're voting Republican. Trump won that demographic. In fact, the left doesn't even count them as brown people anymore. You know how they always put people in crayon boxes? So like you're brown. You used to be brown. But now you're not brown anymore. So if you're Hispanic or you're Latino, you're no longer brown, you're now white. And black people are almost going to be white too if this trend continues. No, really, it's true. Because Trump won the black vote to such a degree in so many different places and outperformed, best the Republicans ever done since Nixon, to the point now where literally the left is going to start calling black people white people, just to start screaming about how they're still oppressed. The only demographic left are college-educated white liberals, and that's it. And you look at the breakdown in New York City, and you look at Mandami, how he did. Cuomo won with Latino voters and black voters. That was the demographic groups that he won. Mandami won with white college-educated liberals. It's amazing to me. It really is. So as now you're looking at these redistricting efforts, I mean, you could carve these districts to try to get more black voters in them, but it doesn't necessarily mean they're going to vote Democrat. The same thing with the Hispanic voters. But you see, when they were making the maps, I think the Democrats just assumed that. And now the Democrats are really worried about this because they're looking at the trends and going, oh my God, they're not voting for us anymore. Well, why would they? You're against school choice. Your policies are abysmal, and they don't like you. Nobody likes you. Nobody likes you. That man, that dude in Congress, who identifies as a woman, the other night was going on about how people think Democrats are a-holes. Yeah, we do. They do. It's true. People do think Democrats are a-holes. You know why they do? Because they get outraged over a jeans commercial. That's why. They get outraged over a jeans commercial and start screaming about Nazi eugenics. Meanwhile, American Eagle stock is up 22% because normal people just see a beautiful woman in jeans and they turn around and go, you know what? I am going to buy those jeans because they're really nice. I don't see any coded Nazi propaganda in there. I know. Crazy, right? But the other thing that I found fascinating about the whole thing with Sydney Sweeney is that when this guy or whoever it was who wrote this story and outed, quote unquote, outed Sydney Sweeney as a Republican, it's like voter rolls are public and they have been forever. If Sydney Sweeney really didn't want people to know she wasn't a Republican, she wouldn't have registered as one. I mean, just think about that for a second. Voter rolls are public. They're public information. I've worked on campaigns, and the reason why you get mail pieces delivered to your house is because we know who you vote for. Well, which party you vote for. And we know how many times you vote. It's true. So the more you vote, the more you're going to get those annoying mail pieces in your mailbox, and the more calls you're going to get. You would think you'd get rewarded for good behavior. It's the opposite. The more money you give, the more we ask. And the more you vote, the more we inundate your mailbox with highfalutin, glossy mail pieces. And I know what you're thinking. You open it up and you go, would you stop? I voted every election. Why do you keep bothering me? Exactly. That's why. So if Sydney Sweeney didn't want people to know she's a Republican, she just wouldn't have registered as one. She would have just not registered with a political party. You don't have to. It's not required. She could have just registered as an independent. But she wanted people to know. She knew full well people would find out. She didn't care. Just like when she's firing guns, she knew people would find out. Just like at the birthday party when somebody was caught with a blue line T-shirt and they had hats on that said, "Make 60 great again." And people were like, oh my God, make 60 great again. There was this guy who got kicked out of a soccer game. I don't know where, but he had a Make America Great Again hat. And that's apparently considered political. Didn't say Trump's name on it. But they kicked him out of the soccer match. Good for him, by the way, because I went to a Union game over the weekend, and I wish I'd gotten kicked out. I'm not a soccer guy. I'm not, but I had free tickets, but I'm just saying. But anyway, but I wish I had been thrown out. I don't like soccer. I'm sorry, I just don't. But my son does. But so anyway, Make America Great Again is apparently a political symbol. That's a sign. It's a political, even though it's been said by both Democrats and Republicans. Like Bill Clinton used to say that. That's now a political statement. And soccer is an international competition. You can't root for America, I guess, anymore. I don't really know how that works. But American Eagle, see, the other thing about American Eagle is that it's American Eagle. Right. American. So there's that. So Sydney Sweeney, so smart to just ignore it all. And I went on her social media today. I was stalking her. No, I had to prepare for my interview. And I was looking at, right. I read the articles. No, I did, for real. I had to. I did. Well, they send you what your topics are. So when you're heading up to New York, they send you your topics. And the topic was Sydney Sweeney. So I had to do my research. So I had to look at all her pictures. And yes, this really does feel like one of those conversations. I just looking at, just doing research, really, in the back of a big SUV going up the turnpike. And while I was doing my research, I noticed that she didn't respond to any of this nonsense. And American Eagle played it smart, too. They just said it's about jeans, and she's got great jeans. There you go. And they were smart, too. They didn't bend the knee of the woke mob. So maybe it's over now. For now. Maybe it's over. And the question that Dana Perino asked me today was, so you think these companies are taking a sigh of relief? And I said, absolutely they are. Absolutely they are. Because they've never wanted to do this anyway. All this woke posturing and everything else, they thought they had to. But Trump exposed the woke mob for what it is. And it's shining a flashlight in the corner where you see a giant shadow and find out it's a tiny little mouse. And you go, it's nothing. Exactly. It's a bunch of crazy people, but they're loud, but the numbers are not there. If the numbers were there, Stephen Colbert wouldn't be getting canceled. All right, 855-839-1210 on X at Rich Zeoli if you want to weigh in today. The big story of the day is that American Eagle is crushing it, and the president has posted on Truth Social after watching my appearance on America's Newsroom. So we'll talk about that. That's brought to you by Dr. Mike Veneria, Veneria Dental. Go see him today for your perfect smile. Vanaria. Mama Zeoli discovered him. It's Mama Zeoli's birthday today. She has a beautiful smile thanks to Dr. Mike. You should get your beautiful smile as well. VeneriaDental.com. We're coming right back.